All right, guys, so 2022 was an awesome year in gaming, but 2023 is looking even better. Today, we're going to go through the top 15 most anticipated games, in my opinion anyway, my top 15 most anticipated games, and kind of discuss them a little bit. I won't be going too in-depth about all of them, especially because we don't have too many details about some of them as well, and if they'll even 100% release in 2023, I'm not sure, considering all the delays and stuff that have been happening in the market recently, but I'm very excited about 2023. There's a lot of awesome games coming out, and to follow up 2022 with a year like this is going to be epic. So let's jump in. Hopefully games can start utilizing the full power of the PS5 and the Xbox Series X this year as well. Let's start with number 15, which is the Resident Evil 4 remake. Now, I was going to do a top 10 list with these videos, but I kind of had like 5 honorable mentions, so I was like, I might as well just make it into a top 15 list, you know, rather than having 5 honorable mentions. So Resident Evil 4 remake is the first game on the list. This wouldn't have been on my full list for the top 10 as I've recently played Resident Evil 4 and it holds up pretty well, and that was the first time I played it. Actually, I think it was a couple of years ago now at this rate, but yeah, this still looks awesome though, and I'll no doubt play it to see how it compares to the original or the 2005 remake, whatever it may be. But yeah, I mean, what we've seen of this so far looks like a faithful, incredible remake, and I can't wait. They've been doing an awesome job with the remakes. Like, I only got into Resident Evil like a few years ago with Resident Evil 7, and then I've kind of played a lot of them since. The Ori 2 remake to me was probably my favorite one so far. That game was incredible. The Resident Evil 3 remake didn't have that same level of quality, but I still enjoyed it nonetheless. And Resident Evil Village was a lot of fun as well. So I've been enjoying all of the entries into the Resident Evil franchise recently, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they've done with the Ori 4 remake, because it was already a great game. I feel like this is a game that really kind of changed the genre of horror games nearly, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes and seeing how many changes they make and what kind of changes they make. But that one's coming out in March 24th for the Resident Evil 4 remake. All right, number 14 is Final Fantasy 16. Now, I'm not a Final Fantasy guy, but from what I've seen, Final Fantasy 16 looks awesome. I've never been into Final Fantasy that much for some reason, but Final Fantasy 16 has just caught my eye. All of the stuff I've seen from the trailers and stuff like that, it looks pretty great, but as I've never really played a Final Fantasy through all the way, I can't really have it any higher up on the list. But seeing like Final Fantasy fans being really excited about this is cool to see. But I think I'm going to check this one out and give it a fair shot from the start. Like, try and go in with an open mind and try and enjoy this one, because I've never really been into the JRPG scene too much, but I've been getting into them a little more recently. I really love Persona. That's a franchise that I've got into. So maybe Final Fantasy can break into my mind and we'll finally enjoy it. Now, speaking of franchises I don't really have any experience with, next up is Baldur's Gate 3. So I've never played a Baldur's Gate game, and I've never really played any of the Divinity Original Sin games either. I played a little bit, I think, of Divinity Original Sin 2, and it was really cool, but that's the developers that are making this game. But to me, they do look like games that are right up my alley. I might actually even check out Divinity Original Sin before I play Baldur's Gate 3. I believe this game is in early access right now. I'm not sure when full release is. I think it's a little bit later in the year, like April or something like that. I'll double check that. August 1st, actually, so it's a little bit later down the line than I thought, but from what I've seen, it looks absolutely awesome. It looks like a style of game that I'd really enjoy, and something that I'm going to check out. I might actually even go and check it out in early access to see if it is something that I vibe with and is something that I want to check out when it comes out fully on August 1st. Like, I won't delve fully into the game, but just check it out and see if it's something that I vibe with, because I absolutely love the Diablo franchise, and this kind of looks a little bit similar to that in my opinion. All right, next up on the list at number 12 is Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals. So this just has a 2023 date right now. It doesn't have an official date lockdown, but this is probably a bit of a wild card, but I absolutely love the first Oxenfree, and despite my shitty ending, I got a terrible ending, I can't wait to play the sequel. There's all sorts of weird stuff in this game, all sorts of weird stuff going on in the background. This game is heavily dialogue focused as well, but let me just read you this small little excerpt from the game that will kind of explain what it's all about. So 5 years after the events of Oxenfree, Riley returns to her home hometown of Kamina to investigate mysterious radio signals. What she finds is more than she bargained for. Now, that's about all the info we have on the sequel so far, but Night School as a studio, I actually really like from the games that I've played from them. Oxenfree and After Party were both so much fun, and they were a lot more in-depth than I expected as well. And on top of that, they just had so much character. And that's why I'm all in on Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals. Can't wait for it to finally get a firm release date and for us to learn a little bit more about where this game is going in the sequel. All right, number 11 is Wild Hearts. This is coming out on 17th of February, and this is a genre that I don't know a lot about, really. I tried to get into Monster Hunter late on, but there's just so much there. It's like completely overwhelming, and I was never really able to fully click with it. But to be able to jump in with a new franchise and start learning with everyone else is quite appealing. I'd love to get into this with my friends. I feel like it'll be a great co-op game to just get on every night and try to take down a few monsters while trying to master a certain character or certain weapons. Because it looks like it's quite in depth with the way that you can learn characters' weapons or characters' abilities. But yeah, I haven't looked too deep into Wild Hearts, but I'm very much looking forward to checking out in February and kind of maybe diving in with my friends and just kind of learning a whole new type of game with them. And I feel like that'll be a cool way to do that. So let's jump into the top 10. So kicking off the list at number 10 is Hogwarts Legacy. This one comes out a week before Wild Hearts, actually, on February 10th. And Hogwarts Legacy is one that I'm cautiously optimistic about. Nothing about it really looks particularly unique. It looks almost like kind of every AAA game mixed together. But the premise of an open world Harry Potter game and being able to explore all around Hogwarts just sounds incredible, honestly. I used to absolutely love the Harry Potter games as a kid, so there's a great deal of nostalgia there as well. I really just hope this game can deliver, because I feel like there'll be a lot of expectations around this, no doubt, and people will be looking to hate on it at the first chance they get because of the connection to J.K. Rowling, which I think is honestly ridiculous considering she's not really even involved in the game at all. Obviously, she created the world, but she's not really involved with the game at all, and I feel like it's unfair to kind of even have that as it's ridiculous to even be upset about that in the first place, honestly. But anyway, enough about that. Let's jump in and let's go to the next game on the list, Hogwarts Legacy. A lot of potential there. I really hope it can live up to the hype. And let's jump into number 9, which is EA Sports PGA Tour. Golf games are back and EA are joining the party. They haven't made a golf game since Rory McIlroy PGA Tour in 2014, and it seems like they're committing back in a big way because they have the rights to all 4 majors and a lot of pro golfers as well. I'm assuming we haven't got too much in the way of details on that yet, but having 2K and EA battle it out in the golf universe can only be a good thing for the games, in my opinion. Competition is always good, and I think these two are going to be different enough for you to enjoy both, but also pushing each other to be better, because I feel like this is going to be an all-out war in 2023. Like PGA Tour 2K23 is going to be trying to do updates to stop people from joining EA Sports PGA Tour, and obviously EA Sports PGA Tour are going to try and jump onto the scene with a bang, and I assume they're going to come out around the Masters Championship if they're ready for it, because I feel like that is just the perfect way to introduce that game, is to have it release around the Masters and kind of have all of the hype of the Masters around that game, because the Masters is such a huge thing in golf. Like even on YouTube, whenever I put the Masters in my titles on the golf club and stuff like that, instant double the amount of views. It's crazy how familiar the Masters is to people, and golf in general has been a big part of my life for a long time, and I can't wait to see where the golf games go in the next couple of years and see how these two titans battle it out for golf supremacy in video games. Now, next up on the list is number 8. This is Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl. So this has a 2023 date at the moment. There's not a concrete date on it, I don't think, yet. It was meant to come out in 2022, but it's been pushed back into this year. Now, I was already mildly excited for this game based on the name and the premise, because I grew up like knowing a lot about the Stalker games, but this last trailer really got me very excited indeed. I'm all aboard the hype train now. It just sounds like something different. The game mixes first-person shooter gameplay with horror and exploration, and I'm all for it. Like, it has a non-linear story in a big open world with co-op play coming in a post-release patch as well. I kind of wish the co-op was there at launch. Like, I feel like that was a big part of my excitement as well, was getting ready to explore that world and kind of that non-linear story with friends, but it's a little disappointing, but but it will be coming post-launch, which is exciting anyway. That was definitely one of the parts I was looking forward to most, though. But yeah, if you haven't seen the new trailer, I'd highly recommend checking it out. Obviously, this is based on the events of Chernobyl, I think in kind of like an alternate Chernobyl. But anyway, can't wait to see when this game is officially coming out and what it's going to be like. Now, 7th on the list is Atomic Heart. This one is coming out February 21st. So a lot of games coming in the 2 weeks between February 10th and February 21st. Like not even 2 weeks, honestly. Just over 10 days. This is another FPS, but this one just like absolute chaos and fun. The more I see of this game, the more excited I get. The gameplay looks like absolutely wild fun with typical FPS gunplay and slashing with improvised weapons. And the story of this game sounds really interesting as well. So the game takes place in an alternate 1955 in the Soviet Union. Now, let me read something a little bit more about the story here. So, quote, advances in robotics in the 1930s enabled the USSR to defeat Nazi Germany in 1941, though with a much more severe loss of life. This results in the automation of Soviet labor and the development of a proto-internet called the Collective 1.0, linking these robots to a collective hive mind, vastly increasing productivity and scientific advancement by the end of their 40s. I mean, that just sounds awesome, right? And with the style of gameplay, I think this has the potential to be an absolute banger. If you haven't seen one of the trailers, just watch one of the gameplay trailers and you'll see what I'm talking about. Absolute chaos, and it looks like it could be oh so much fun. And I'm very much looking forward to checking this one out in February. So a lot of these games coming out early in the year. Obviously, we don't have firm release dates on every game, so there might be kind of a few that we miss out on because I don't know for sure if they're coming out in 2023, and I'm sure there'll be more kind of labeled for 2023 as we go on, like say Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine and stuff. I'm not like fully sure on them yet. They would probably be on my list, but I don't have them there because I'm not sure. There's only one game really I have on here that I'm not 100% sure is coming out in 2023, and that's going to be a little higher up the list here. So let's jump in to number 6, which is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. So this one comes out May 26th, and I feel like this has a lot riding on it because WB Montreal let me down big time with Gotham Knights, but I'm very confident that Rocksteady won't let me down. Now, this is, of course, a brand new game in the Batman universe and takes place after Arkham Knight. We won't be playing as Batman for the first time in the series, but the new premise to me sounds great anyway. Batman will still be in the game, voiced by Kevin Conroy as well. Rest in peace, buddy. It looks like you'll be playing as Harley Quinn, Deadshot, Captain Boomerang, and King Shark. The premise of the story is to try to take down superheroes like Flash, Superman, Green Lantern, and Batman, who are under Brainiac's control. At first, I was kind of worried about how they do the story like that to kind of make it seem like you're not just absolutely the bad guys, or you're like how they kind of get around you trying to kill superheroes without it making it look like terrible. But it seems like a pretty legitimate way, to be fair. And anyway, it's been a long time since Rockstar's last game. Like, there's a lot riding on this game, as I said. So let's see if they got what it takes to make a great superhero game without Batman. I think they can, for sure. All right, number 5 is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. This one comes out March 17th. We're into the top 5. And even though I'm not much of a Star Wars fan, I absolutely loved Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. The gameplay loop of it was just so damn fun and satisfying, and this one just looks bigger and better in every way. The mounts look awesome. The flying mounts, come on. That's incredible. I absolutely love mounts in video games, if you couldn't tell. For some reason, it just always clicks with me. Like in World of Warcraft, when I was a kid, I just used to absolutely love riding around the wolves and what do they call those ones? I can't remember. And then they brought in the flying mounts. I was in heaven, man. But I don't know. It just kind of really appeals to me. God damn, I love mounts in video games. But the characters and story in the first game weren't what reeled me in, really. It was how fun the gameplay was to play. And coming back to the same worlds with new abilities and being able to explore them further in a Metroidvania-like way was just uber satisfying. That's not to say the story and characters were bad, because I don't think they were bad. It just wasn't the hook of the game to me. Now, I am very excited to see where the story goes in the sequel and just see where the game kind of goes in general. Like, will it just be kind of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 1.5, or will this be a true sequel with lots of new stuff coming into the world? I'm very excited to see, and I can't wait to play it on March 17. February and March are stacked, boys. Now, to number 4 on the list, that for me is Starfield. This one comes out, they're still saying it's gonna come out in the first half of 2023. Starfield is one that has the potential to be an absolute masterclass, or, in my opinion, a big letdown as well. Because I think if Starfield is anything less than a masterpiece, it'll be a letdown to a lot of people. This one has a lot riding on it as the Xbox flagship title. People are going to be out to kind of get it no matter what. People are going to be trying to tear this one down. I feel like this does have just huge expectations on the shoulders, but I think it can match them. Let's read a little excerpt about what Starfield is, basically. So Starfield is set in an area that extends outwards from the solar system for approximately 50 light years, called the Settled Systems. Around the year 2310, the two largest factions in the game, the United Colonies and the Freestar Collective, engaged in a conflict called the Colony War. The game takes place 20 years after the war, with the major factions enjoying an uneasy peace. The player assumes the role of a customizable character, of course, seen as it's a Bethesda game, who is a member of Constellation, an organization of space explorers. The game can be played in either first or third person perspective. So that just sounds like there's going to be a whole lot of exploration of worlds and different ways that you can explore things. But the way that this is done is going to be super important, of course. If everything is just kind of procedurally generated, I don't know how I'm going to feel about that. I feel like they have to have like quite a few beautiful handcrafted planets. But overall, yeah, I'm kind of like, I don't know if Starfield will live up to the hype. I am kind of leaning towards more that it will. And I'm hoping that it does, and I'm hoping that this is an absolutely incredible game and that it blows people away, because there's so much potential in space games in general. As we've seen with No Man's Sky, they've made a huge bounce back. That's a completely different type of space game, of course, to what this will be. But some of the vibes were definitely similar from the trailer that I got in the way that you explore things. So I'm very excited to see how you explore places in Starfield and what these planets will be like. Because the art of the unknown and kind of exploring unknown planets is just such a kind of satisfying thing to do. And I'm very excited to see how that works out in Starfield. Now, let's jump in to the top three. Kicking off the top three is the Dead Space remake. This one comes out probably the earliest on this list. Now, I have talked about this a little bit in my January top 5 games, so I won't say too much about it. But Dead Space 1 and 2 are my favorite horror games ever. Full stop. I haven't played Dead Space 1 start to finish since its release. So this remake has me incredibly excited after what I've seen. It looks faithful, it looks horrifying, and it looks glorious. Horror games in space aren't as rare as they used to be anymore, but my god, no game has ever done it as good as Dead Space in my opinion. This game just gives you an unparalleled feeling of uneasiness, and I just cannot wait to go through the Ishimura once again. And I cannot wait to play it in less than a month. This is coming out at the end of this month. That's crazy to think about. So now, let's jump up to number 2 on the list, and that is Diablo 4. This one comes out June 6th, and Diablo is a series that I fell in love with really quickly. Now, I only got into this series with Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls Edition on PS4, but as I said, my god, I fell in love. I absolutely got addicted to the gameplay, but the cinematics and the story were actually incredibly awesome to me as well. I played through the game multiple times by myself and with my friends, and me and my friend Mihal specifically went and did the rifts countless times to get better loot, got our Paragon level up and started playing on higher difficulties, just having fun with it. I've since played Diablo 2, which I know people absolutely love, and I did love it as well, but not as much as 3, to me at least personally. Although it seems like 4 is kind of going to be a little bit more like 2 in the way that it's themed at least, but I'm still ultra excited the same. My hype levels are so high from what I have seen. Obviously, I'm apprehensive about the monetization of it based on what we've got with Diablo Immortals and more from Blizzard Games, of course.
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
But the gameplay looks absolutely incredible, and everything I've seen and heard from people who got access to the pre-release gameplay is positive. And from people I trust too, like Force Gaming and Skill Up, they've basically been singing the game's praises, and I believe they only saw one world and kind of got to play it for like 20 to 25 hours, and they were singing the game's praises about how fun and engaging the gameplay was. So Diablo 4, about halfway through the year. June is a good date to release a game, I think, or a good month to release a game. While everyone's out kind of in the summer, they're off for the summer. Diablo 4, that's going to be my summer sorted. Now, number 1 is Dragon Age Dreadwolf. This one is scheduled for late 2023. Now, I'm apprehensive about having this on the list at all, as I'm not sure it will come out in 2023 at all. But as it's slated for late 2023, I'm gonna put it on here, all right? And we can kind of discuss it a little bit. So, Dragon Age is my favorite RPG franchise ever, and a top 3 franchise for me in general, honestly. Dragon Age Origins is one of, if not my favorite RPG ever. Dragon Age 2 is awesome, and Dragon Age Inquisition is absolutely not as bad as people try to make it out to be. At least in my opinion, it was absolutely a deserved Game of the Year winner in 2014. But now I must say, the future of this franchise is scary, as BioWare have been going through it. But I'm optimistic that they are going to continue to make great Dragon Age games. Dragon Age Inquisition, with all its kind of talk around it, it still produced a brilliant game, and I think they can make an even better one here with Dragon Age Dreadwolf. The way the story's going with Solace, I've still never actually played the DLC for Dragon Age Inquisition, which is crazy because I think that's like a major part of the next story. I'm gonna have to go and do that because I absolutely love that game. I'm not sure if you can play the DLC without playing through the game again, and I'm not sure I have my save is the only thing, but I mean, I'm down to try it at least and maybe play through Dragon Age Inquisition the whole way again to get to the DLC. I wouldn't mind doing that because the first time I played Dragon Age Inquisition anyway, I didn't like do all of the side stuff. I can kind of go back and kind of take my time with it and enjoy it, but I'm very excited to see where the story goes and see what characters will be in your party in Dragon Age Dreadwolf. I cannot wait for this one. Oh, so excited. I'm a massive Dragon Age fan, and I cannot wait to see what they do next. But that's it for me for my top 15 most anticipated games of 2023. Let me know your top 5 or top 10 in the comments down below. I'm very intrigued to see what games people come up with in the comments. And honestly, if I've forgotten any, I apologize. Spider-Man 2 is one that I was kind of thinking about halfway through this, where I'm like, yeah, I should probably have Spider-Man 2 on this list, but I don't know if it'll come out this year. I think Spider-Man 2 probably will come out this year. I'm fairly confident in that, but I left it off my list for some reason. I didn't even think about it. But Spider-Man 2 definitely would be up there in the top 5 for me of most anticipated games. Absolutely loved the first one. Loved the Miles Morales DLC as well, and I'm sure that Spider-Man 2 is going to be an incredible experience as well. Thanks for all the support, guys. Really appreciate it over here on the Apex Sound 2. We got big plans for this channel in 2023, of course. This is the first type of video that I'm doing like this. Actually, it's the second. I guess the top 5 games of the month for January was there as well, but this is the first kind of major list we're doing here. We did the top 10 games of the year at the end of the year, and now we're starting off the year with the top 15 most anticipated games for 2023. Let me know your list, as I said, and I'll see you guys next time. It's been my distinct pleasure to serve you all. Peace out, boys.